Dr. Richard Chamberlain wrote and published his memoir Shattered Love in 2003. In 2020, he has reread his memoir and joins author and singer Miriam to discuss this and his incredible acting career. Hello everybody, my name is Miriam and this is Writer's Block. Now, your eyes aren't deceiving you. Yes, Father Ralph is here from the Thorn Birds. Or maybe you think it's Blackthorn from Shogun. Or if you're into horror, maybe Dr. Mirari. But whatever. Just relax. Everything will be fine. Because Richard Chamberlain is here. You're very welcome to the show, Richard.
Miriam, how nice to be with you. Thank you.
No problem at all. I don't know how I did this. I basically got your book, read this wonderful, wonderful piece of literature, and I said, you know, I think this guy is in tune with the universe. So I'm going to ask the universe a question and basically see if he listens. And what do you know? He answered, and he's here on the show with us today. Absolutely marvelous, and I'm very grateful to you.
I'm very grateful to you.
So how are you in Hawaii? How's it going?
Fine. You know, it's a wonderful place to be during all these incredibly difficult times.
Yes.
Looking out the window at the sea, and it's gorgeous, and I can forget that the world is sort of collapsing.
I know. Isn't it just awful? And I know from my perspective, I mean, I'm a singer, I'm a performer, everything has stopped for us. Everything. Yeah. My response to the situation has been to create writer's block. But I still feel that a lot of us hit a bump in the road, and that's pretty much when I picked up Shattered Love, because about week 16, what are we now? Week 23, 24. In about week 16, I found I couldn't focus, and I found I was finding it difficult to be in the moment and stuff that I would normally have been able to do. And I just happened to come across your book. And I thought, I remember this 17 years ago, but I hadn't really paid attention. The timing wasn't right. Read it and was absolutely amazed that it wasn't strictly an anecdotal book. It was very much a philosophical book, a book about joy, yes. A book about finding yourself, about being able to embrace yourself and yes. Survive in hard times and in good times.
I'm going to move this computer up just a little bit. There you go.
No, yeah, that's even better. That's even better. So it was a wonderful book, and it just struck me. It would be great to have you on the show to talk about it. But you begin very, very early, don't you? You go right back to kindergarten almost in your discussion.
Yes, terrifying kindergarten. The last thing I wanted when I was a kid, 4 was my perfect age. That was my happiest time, I think, preschool. Yes. I didn't want to go to school at all. And I remember crying, my mother trying to push me through the door of this kindergarten. And I was, no, I don't want to. But
and even worse when all the other kids are crying too.
Yes.
You know there's something wrong then, don't you, when that happens? But you had a lot of pals, didn't you? You seemed to have a lot of good friends when you were growing up.
I did have some wonderful friends in my neighborhood.
What about that lovely, in your prologue, I loved, because your prologue was a page and a half, but it tells you everything you need to know about where the book is going.
Yes.
And it's a really, really, really lovely, as I say, it was like the painter holding his palette and the brush and just painting his view, which is really very, very important, because you've been down so many roads in life that you kind of need to know where the book is going. And you tell a story. I wonder if you tell it for us again, you know, when you're a small child and you have a kind of an epiphany experience. You walk across your yard and you climb the tree and you sit on the wall, and then something happens.
Yes, We had a little house with a patio and a rather high wall around it. And there was a very comfortable place in the wall to sit underneath an ornamental walnut tree. And we used to play on the roof and on the walls and stuff like that. And one day I was kind of bored and I just climbed up on this wall for no particular reason and sat against this rather comfortable place and started looking around. And suddenly I got very, very quiet. It was an experience I had never had before. And suddenly I could just watch what was going on. And then a car would go by, or somebody might walk along the sidewalk, or a bird might fly down. But it was so still, and I was so, in a sense, non-existent. I was just seeing.
Yeah.
And it was the most wonderful feeling. I was only 7 years old.
Yeah.
The most wonderful feeling. And it lasted about 10 or 15 minutes maybe. And then, you know, as those feelings do, it went away. And a few days later, I went back up to, you know, feel that again, and it didn't come back.
Come back now.
No. But I'll
dear.
never forget it. I remember exactly what it felt like, even now.
Yeah.
80 years
And
later.
would you feel that was kind of your first sort of spiritual moment, if you like, where you became conscious of something else visiting you?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful story. And the thing is that you tell it so well. And what I noticed about the book was that when you go down this road of relating this kind of very private experience, and you've always been a very private man from what we've learned about you, this was, you put this across without using church speak, Buddhist speak, Christian speak. It's
Yes.
your words, your experience.
Yes.
And really very beautiful, very beautiful. You also talk about your family, and you talk about the kind of environment that you came from and the sorts of influences that were in the house. Some of those things I can certainly identify too with Al-Anon meetings or something I used to go to as well. And that can have, you know, when you've got someone in the house who does drink and is on and off as a drinker, it does have a profound effect on your upbringing, on your self-esteem, your self-worth.
Yes.
And in your case, that was your father, yes?
Yes. Yeah, he was called a periodic. He was drunk half the time and sober half the time. He kept his job. He kept a roof over our heads and all that sort of thing. But it was difficult because we always thought, oh, maybe this is the last time, because he'd get sober again. Oh, good. And then I remember one Christmas Eve. Oh, my dear. We loved Christmas. We had a great, big, beautiful Christmas tree in the living room and stuff. And Dad was sober. And he drove up. I was in my bedroom, which sort of had a window toward the garage, and I heard him get out of his car, and I heard Mom at the back door, and she said, "Hi, honey," or something like that, and he said, "Honey, I'm drunk again."
Oh God!
And you know, all our hearts just fell because we thought we were going to have a sober Christmas. But it was difficult from time to time.
It can, and it's only later on in life you realize just how these things can impact on you. It's but at the same time it spurs you on, doesn't it? It gives you drive, it makes you plan, it gives you hope as well. It can be quite an interesting thing. You describe your father in a very interesting way. You call him majestic and mysterious at the same time.
Oh, really? Yeah. He was a bit. He was a farm boy from Indiana, but he had real size. He had a lot of charisma. He was a big man, strong, and his chosen persona was one of great authority. Don't tread on me, authority. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine. And at the same time, someone who was probably dying to communicate the way he really wanted to, but just couldn't because of the.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
I think, you know, back in those days, this is a long time ago, men had very little knowledge of fathering,
Yes.
of parenting. They just didn't know about all that. They didn't really know anything, hardly anything about love. But I noticed with my friends' fathers also, they were kind of similar, sort of a little bit distant, and not warm, not friendly, not easy. And the men were like that back then.
Yeah, they were. And I know certainly in my own father, once we got to, he had two girls. So once we got to about 7, 8, he stood back. You handed over, you know, and that was a thing that they did. And it also was like he was in the aviation business. So it was a culture of drinking. And I think for a lot of people in the 20s and 30s as well, there was a culture of drinking. So it was normal. It was quite normal.
Yes.
What is interesting, though, is that when you get older and you have this extraordinary thing happen, not without certain amount of hard work and planning, of course, but you arrive at the point.
A lot of
luck, I suppose. You need everything going for you. 25 years old, is it when you get the part of Dr. Kildare?
About 24, I think. Yeah.
24, even younger. Oh my gosh. The eponymous.
Yeah, I was 25.
Could add on a little bit. The eponymous Dr. Kildare. No lightweight could have played that part. I went back and I started watching them over the last couple of weeks. 191 episodes in all series. And some of them, the latter ones, I think in color, the first 3 series in black and white. But from the get-go, oh my goodness, what a challenging role for a young man.
Yes. Yes, and I was so green in the beginning, and it would take me a long time, many takes, if it was an emotional scene, for instance. Yes. It would take a lot of takes for me to get up to the pitch that everybody wanted. And Raymond Massey, who played Dr. Gillespie, was so kind. He never flinched during those early
Gillespie.
Yeah. Yes. He never flinched. He was so kind to me. He was just wonderful.
Isn't that wonderful? And he seems to have been someone who was two things. He was like a father figure to you. And yet at the same time, highly respectful. He didn't patronize you. He didn't.
Not at all.
No. Isn't that great?
Yes. Yes. And he used to invite me over. He had a lot of wonderful actor friends, and he used to invite me over for lunch once in a while when they would be coming to his house for lunch, and I would sit there at the table and listen to all these amazing stories about the theater.
Know.
Oh, it was
fabulous. Great. And how, like, was that terrifying?
No. I suppose I was a little nervous about it, but no, it wasn't terrifying. No.
And would you have called him an actor's actor?
Oh yeah, wonderful actor, incredibly experienced. Of course, he'd been in millions of movies by the time we did Kildare.
Sure, I suppose he looked out for you as well. He probably, I would have thought he'd look out for you very well. I just bring a picture of him up there. There you are.
Yeah. Oh, sweet man.
Honestly,
he was also scary. He was a very big man, and if he didn't like you, forget it. He could be kind of rough, but luckily we got on from the very beginning, and his wife too.
Now, did you find when you were that age, I mean, hitting the stratosphere, if you like, so young, did you find a lot of other actors were jealous of you?
I don't think I had time to think about it. Starring in a series is really hard work.
Yes.
And I used to go to classes after shooting. I used to go to dance classes and singing lessons and stuff like that. I was really working my ass off. Yeah. And I didn't have an opportunity to communicate on that sort of level with other actors much that I can remember. So I don't know if I generated some jealousy or not, but I was incredibly lucky, and it was, whoa, what a part.
Yeah, I was reading that, where an awful lot of other actors were slacking off a little bit and weren't putting the effort in afterwards. You would put in full days, and as you say, go to ballet, do your vocal training as well. You seem to have this phenomenal work ethic that traveled with you right the way through your life. And you seemed also to balance your movies and your plays. You tried from very early on to be in both camps, which is hard to do, I think, for certain film actors. It's hard to get back into theater if you've been, in film for a while.
No, I didn't find, they're very, very different, but I didn't find jumping back and forth between mediums that difficult. The one thing about doing films is that the productions are usually so slow. There's just endless waiting around. And I had trouble getting used to that. I had trouble keeping my energy ready, for them to come. Okay, Dick, come on, be great. After a half an hour, 45 minutes of sitting around. But I preferred theater and television. The miniseries was the perfect, actually.
Of course.
Perfect medium.
Absolutely. And I'll move on to that now in just one second. But I remember a scene with you. You were with James Mason in Dr. Kildare.
Oh,
and
yes.
It was a fantastic scene in the lecture theatre where you take him to task. And he basically has to leave with his tail between his legs.
Oh, really? I'll have to look that up. I don't fully remember. I remember working with him, but I don't remember that scene. Well, I have the DVDs here. So do you happen to remember what season it was?
I think it was 3. I will have a look. I'll let you know. But it was one of those really extraordinary sort of scenes where that this shouldn't be happening to James Mason, but it is. He's actually you've basically beat the character up, and he's
that's great. Good for me.
Which is really good. So you kind of right. What are you? 30 years old when Dr. Kildare finishes around that.
Yes.
And then you of course you're a native of California and you're living in Los Angeles, but you make a point. You say back in 1960, on the verge of the Kildare phenomenon, I was fiendishly hungry for any particle of prestige I could lay my hands on. I loved my work, but fame was my muse. That was a very honest comment.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I needed some reasons for self-confidence, really. I was not a very self-confident person. On another level, I did have sort of a certain level of confidence on another level, but I really needed that kind of attention and stuff to make myself feel good, I think, at that time.
It is extraordinary to hear you say that, because nothing like that ever showed on screen. I mean, you were always super strong and super confident and totally sold your roles in every way. But then just jump forward now. Jump forward to, 10 years ago, you went back to Los Angeles. And of course, you're going back as someone who has totally found themselves, who knows who they are. Was that a very different experience? Just going back with all of this experience behind you, and again, the new kid on the block in so many respects, because you've gone back to work.
Yes, I went back to work with sort of smaller parts in TV. It was sort of fun doing that.
Leverage, Nip and Tuck.
Yeah, those things. It was fun doing them.
And even in Britain, Hustle. That was great.
Hustle was really fun.
Oh, that was wonderful.
A really good show and a really good part. And I loved doing it.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Mark Warren, all of the Adrian Lister. Fabulous. It's a great show. It was always a great show.
Yes.
So just to take you on a little bit further now, your art. Let's come to that, because as we looked there, you have a really, really incredible artistic talent.
Thank you.
And I mean, I feel as though I am welcoming not just the actor to the show, but I feel it's the pianist, the singer, the artist, you know, because you are that good. And again, here we see, oh gosh, you're very young there as well. Are you 24, 25? But this is very abstract. This work that you're experimenting with here. Were you more into
what it is?
Were you? It looks very Picasso-like.
Yeah.
Well, I can't quite make out the figure, but I do see faces there that are very similar to the Picasso's kind of work. Would you have been drawn in your youth closer to abstract expressionist painting, or were you more drawn to traditional realist forms? What did you like back then when it came to your painting?
I liked jumping around from sort of method to method. I liked abstract. I liked line. I liked shape and form.
Geometry.
And geometric things in a sense. I was just looking back over my college days. Lionel Feininger was a big influence on me at the time, and it was wonderful, linear, sort of marvelous structures.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course they do say that, you know, with the abstract forms, the linear and geometrical forms do connect more with emotion and spirit than the realist forms. And it's I just bring up a couple. It's always subjective, this, but it's when if I can just bring up here my absolute favorite. I do beg your pardon.
Age and Wisdom, you said.
Age and Wisdom. Absolutely stunning. I love this. There we are.
Good. You're one of the few people who even notice it. I like that painting too. It started out, some artist friends of mine were giving a group of us painting lessons here in Hawaii. And instead of using the watercolor, I started drawing that tree. And it became very, very detailed and quite interesting.
It is, because you have, I mean, for a start, you've got a double trunk there, which is interesting too. One half of it is blooming. The other half, not so much, but I love the reptilian feel to the bark. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And you have your sky in the background. And this is where I wish I could get the definition on the paintings. I've had to drop a few of them because the definition wouldn't come up. But you seem to like using pointillism.
Yes, I do.
Dots.
I do it a lot. I just got back to painting after 2 years, just a few weeks ago. And it was pointillist also. And I like doing that. And it also creates a very nice texture.
It does, and a sense of movement. So your blue sky there behind the clouds it's all pretty much pointillism, and it gives you that sense of tone. And you specifically, like even here, I'm going to get out of the way. Excuse me, it's a bit difficult to get out of the way, but you've got very specific, purposely arranged gaps there, where you've got light coming through. But what I really like are the clouds that have drawn near to the old tree. They're absorbing the wisdom. They're absorbing like osmosis. They are absorbing
the little baby tree at the end.
At the end.
Getting some of the vibes. Exactly.
And what you don't do is smudge. I've noticed this with your other paintings. Every part, every detail has a purpose. You don't smudge. You don't smudge at all. Everything is in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Absolutely gorgeous. And also for anyone who wants to go on to, I'll just get out of the way again, Richard Chamberlain Artworks, richard-chamberlain.com, and you will see beautiful, beautiful captions. I like the way you also give the dimensions of the prints as well, which is really important, and I'm presuming the originals look like that too.
Yes, there were giclée prints that I was selling, and they're very excellent prints. I don't sell them anymore.
You don't sell them anymore? Okay, well that is a great shame. It really is Rachel. Now, you went after. Oh yes, Celestial Ardor. Now this again, you'd wish that you could get the detail on this, because again, you've got so much pointillism in here. It was very strange. Okay, we see what the shapes are, and we also understand that it's a male and female concept. But again, I looked at that and I saw just subjectively, right, the right-hand side as being very masculine, and the left-hand side, whole of the left-hand side, as being very feminine. And I thought, why the hell am I seeing that? It doesn't make any sense. And then I realized it was the tone, the color, and shape of the pointillism on the left-hand side was much more feminine. Oh. And it was conveying this sense of one side being more feminine than the other. And I thought, wow, a technique like that can bring in so many different feelings and emotions. It's the most beautiful, again, very geometric, phallic-like, commitment-based.
It's very phallic. It was about committing totally to life.
Yes.
And the image was sort of shagging the celestial womb in a way.
Yeah, you have to do the inversion of that now. You have to, from the opposite perspective. Now, and then shortly after, was it very soon after you finished Dr. Kildare that you went to the United Kingdom? Was it?
Fairly soon. I did in between. I did a musical in New York that was an astounding failure, a huge failure, a flop.
Was it with Diana Rigg?
No. Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh, Mary Tyler Moore.
And she was one of the Breakfast at Tiffany's, and she was wonderful in it. But it's a long story of why it failed.
Yeah, the first big failure, was it for?
Yeah, it was.
Well, this is wonderful because you're in England, and I think this is an English scene. Isn't it late spring?
Yes.
A late spring.
Yes, it was 1 year. I was there for 4.5 years. And 1 year, the spring never came. It was dark and rainy and gray, month after month after month after month. And finally, in around June, I think it was, maybe even July, the sun came out and everything bloomed. Everything
bloomed at once.
Even things that never have flowers before, everything bloomed. And that's why I painted that painting. It was just...
and that is beautiful too. And again, there's no smudging of anything there. Everything. It's very Monet-like in many respects. It's
thank you.
A very, very beautiful piece. Now, I just want to move on, if I can, here to one of the things that made me laugh in the book, and yet I shouldn't have laughed, but I had to laugh, was when you were talking about being in training, your military service, and your commanding officer found out that you were an art major and asked you to paint what were the dimensions again on this? To paint the canteen hall, a mural
18 feet high and 30 feet wide. It was gigantic.
It was huge.
And a friend of mine from school helped me do it. A guy named Tony Landau helped with it. I wish we had photographs of it. It was a big, we copied a huge photograph of a special place in San Francisco. But it's now
the wharf. Yes, the Fisherman's Wharf.
Fisherman's Wharf, that's what it was.
Fisherman's Wharf. You said, our company commander noticed that I'd been an art major and drafted me to paint our mess hall mural in whatever spare time I could find. He wanted a vast picture of San Francisco's famous Fisherman's Wharf, 18 by 30 feet. Good memory. So I painted while everybody else ate. We all thought the mural turned out really well. But about a week after I'd finished, the new general in charge of the whole fort issued orders stating that murals were immoral and unmanly.
Unmanly.
He demanded that they be painted over with standard hospital green paint. Honest to God, that has to be found. Somewhere in Fort Ord, there is a Richard Chamberlain original.
Underneath.
Somebody's got to find that. Come on, mission, everybody, find it. There are departments that can peel off the existing paint and reveal it for everyone. It would be great to find that, or part of it. It was really very good. Now, just need to move on to something that, oh gosh, Raoul Wallenberg's birthday, as I mentioned. It was the most amazing, the most beautiful and the most amazing show. And I remember I was 21 when this came out, and I remember it profoundly affecting me, because I think it was the first time that we'd heard about such a tragic figure, such a brave man.
Oh, yes.
Wasn't he amazing?
Yes.
What was it like to play someone who really existed, who was an actual hero, and who could possibly in 1985 have been still alive?
Possibly. Not very likely, but possibly.
Yeah.
You know, he was a rather wealthy young guy, and he went to the movies once with his sister to see The Scarlet Pimpernel. And when he came out of that movie, he said to his sister, "Oh, if only I could in my lifetime do something like that." Yeah. And he did. It almost brings tears to my eyes.
Yes.
He did exactly that. He got in with those rotten Nazis and bossed them around and saved dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of lives. Quite amazing.
He did. And you know, when I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and I was amazed at how the script and the edit of that particular series stands up to today's scrutiny.
Yes, it's an excellent film.
It is. It doesn't labor.
Yeah.
It doesn't labor at all, and you were superb in it. Absolutely superb.
Thank you.
As you always are. Now, there's a line that I loved from it, and it was towards the end of the film. When you're in the car and you are passing so many being ferried and shoved into train cars and what have you, and you turn around and you say, perhaps we're witnessing the death of God himself. And there's something about that line that stayed with me. It was an absolutely amazing line. And the way in the film, the way at the end, a very simple technique, but they just cut to black and white. So once he's taken and captured by the Russians,
yes,
your face tells the story of the shock, but then switching to black and white just gives the finality, like a line under his life.
Yeah.
You know, it was a really beautiful, very simple technique, but it really brought it home to the audience. His life is over.
Yes.
He's not getting out of this. Very hard to take, isn't it?
Hard to take. Yeah.
And when you think about what we're going through now in COVID, really, it's nothing by comparison with what those poor people went through.
No. Well,
now,
tiny bit, but hardly comparable yet.
You had some great female figures in your life as well who influenced you. Your mother was wonderful.
Yes, she was terrific. She was really terrific. She was a beautiful woman. She was very talented.
Yes.
She had done some acting in her youth in college and stuff, and apparently was quite good. She even did some directing early on, but my father didn't like the competition and sort of dragged her home. Dear. And she played the piano brilliantly and was a good singer, and she was terrific.
And did she teach you piano?
She didn't actually teach me. She sent me on to a couple of teachers, one of whom was across the street, luckily. But she didn't actually sit down and teach me.
And you mentioned as well a couple of other figures. So you had Carolyn Trojanovsky.
Yes. Yes. I met her through somebody I knew in college. And when I got out of the army, he had extolled her virtues as a singing teacher. And I got in touch with her and really liked her and worked with her for years. And she was very smart. She sort of took charge of my life and got me shaped up.
Yeah, she really got behind you, didn't she? She really did. I love her quote. There was a quote here. She said, Singing next to lovemaking is probably the most revealing human activity of all. You can fool people with speech and body language and charm, but the primal act of producing sounds of song from deep within your body and heart, or not, will showcase your every fear, inhibition, reluctance, sensuality, joy, freedom, and love.
I think it's true. I'm not sure how expressive my singing was. I had a nice voice, and the records I made were quite pleasant, but they didn't.
Oh, they were very good. They were
you.
excellent. You're a baritone.
Yes.
You're a baritone. Bass baritone, yeah. Oh no, absolutely, absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
I would agree with her. I'm a singer. I would agree with everything that she has said there too.
yes.
Now, just for one moment, if I can, please excuse me while I just find. There we are. Shogun, 1980. So this is what, 5 years before Wallenberg, a hero story.
Yes.
What an extraordinary show this is.
Oh,
Hard.
it's to start the James Clavel's book of Shogun was the best read I've ever had. That's exciting, wonderful, amazing read. And then they decided to film it, and I thought, whoa, got to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was a difficult shoot, though, wasn't it? I mean, it was yeah, really hard.
I was in everything practically, and we were shooting in Japan, the whole thing. We were 6.5 months in Japan, which was great. But it was very hard work. Sometimes it was incredibly hot. We were outside a lot. And the costumes, the Japanese don't like to fake things. And the costumes, which in real life are about 17 layers of clothes, they instead of sort of faking it and just showing little bits, we were all in 17 layers of clothes in these unbelievably hot days. Yeah, but it was, and a lot of my dialogue was exposition, what you call telling the audience a story and pretending like it's real life.
Because everything is through the eyes of Blackthorn, isn't it? It's
pretty much.
He's carrying it.
Pretty much. But yeah, it was very hard work and thrilling. And working with Toshiro Mifune-san.
Oh, yes.
Just
so famous.
A brilliant experience, but so brilliant.
Yes.
Totally. He was the Japanese Laurence Olivier, really.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolute tops.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. The chapters that you've devoted to that are amazing to read. And then there's the distraction scene, and that is available for people to see on YouTube too, where you had to do a take over and over and over and over until it nearly killed you, running up and down steps.
Oh yeah,
that was hard.
I don't know how I did it. We had okay, let's do it again. Okay, good, Richard, let's do it again. And it was like miles up and down this. It was, yeah, that was rough.
And you had a bad fall at one point. There's a fall, it's on film, and they all shout, "Are you all right, Richard?" He says, "Yes," and you just get up.
Oh, okay.
And go again.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Just give me a moment to catch my breath. It was really, professionalism at its best, of course. Did you paint any Japanese scenes when you were over there, or did you do any sketching?
I didn't have either time nor energy to do anything but learn my lines and do the work. It was
that hard.
Oh, but we did have weekends off, which is very unusual on location. And so I did get to, we were 10 weeks in Kyoto, for instance. And I did get to go around with my wonderful, lovely Japanese interpreter and see a lot of amazing stuff in Kyoto, just amazing.
Just fantastic, isn't it, to see that happen? Now, we'll just move on for a moment to, we can't not talk about the great and the glorious Barbara Stanwick. Oh my gosh.
Oh, best.
In the Thorn Birds.
Absolute best.
Oh,
She's totally incomparable. There's nobody like her. There'll never will be anyone like her. She was sensational. And she was in her 70s at the time, looking fabulous.
yes.
Great body, great tits, great skin. You know, she was just looking gorgeous.
She was lovely and
she
so
was amazing.
So strong. Such a strong woman.
Oh, strong, yes. Wow.
But that scene that she had with you, that scene where the party has finished and Father Ralph has to take her upstairs to the landing. And there is this utterly amazing acting lesson.
Totally amazing.
Where she's demanding that Father Ralph kiss her and is getting mad at him, and she allows herself to just totally fall apart. Rant, rave.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So she will have had to have done that to you, and she'll have had to have done it to camera as well.
Yes, there would have been a two-shot and a single on her, yes, for sure.
We have, of course, the wonderful Rachel Ward.
Oh, lovely.
Oh my God, what a Megan. What a Megan.
So beautiful and lovely to work with. And she was rather new at acting. She was, I thought, terrific.
Well, she really had great chemistry with you.
Well, interestingly enough, she was falling in love with Brian Brown at the time. I didn't know that, but she was. And they were falling in love with each other. So all this love vibe that she had with Brian, she brought to our scenes. And I thought, whoa, I'm really turning her on. But it was really Brian.
Well, it worked. It worked. Oh, my goodness. And now you had, certainly, we've got another, oh, gosh, what was I, 16 when Thorn Birds came along, and none of us knew what hit us, any of us. Let me just bring this up here. Now, another very nice casual scene that we don't see too often. It was just the most extraordinary story, wasn't it? And it seems to have been the one that catapulted you to international stardom instantly.
Well, Kildare was international also.
Yes.
So it was sort of a second time for that. And it was an amazing international success. And especially in Latin countries, where Catholicism is very important. And so here was this naughty priest doing naughty things, and they loved it.
Yeah, he wanted everything, didn't he? He wanted the ambition,
the
power, God, and
he
Meghan.
Was unfortunately torn three ways, exactly.
He was.
He loved Meghan, he loved God, and he loved the glamour and power of the church. He was addicted to all three, and it just tore him apart.
Yeah, it did. And what was really interesting, I thought, about this too, is that, what age are you playing this? Are you 48, 49 by the time this role comes along? And you're playing, at the beginning of Thorn Birds, you are playing a young priest in his early 30s.
I stayed young a long time.
You did?
I don't know why, but I just stayed young way up into my 50s.
Yes. I have to say that Robert Redford's name seemed to come up a few times in your life. You seem to be whittled down to parts between him. I think with Thorn Birds was the same, wasn't it? It was between you and Robert Redford.
Yes. Well, with Shogun, I was doing Cyrano de Bergerac in Los Angeles. And in my dressing room one evening, some people came back to say hello. And somebody I'd never met before said, "Have you read Shogun?" And I said, "No, what is it?" And he said, "It's a novel by James Clavel. Read it." And then he disappeared. It was like, whoa. So I got it and read it and was astounded by the book. And I called my agent. I said, "Flo, I've got to play this. They're going to make a series out of it. I know I've got to play Blackthorn." And she said, "Well, that's fine, but it's going to be a movie with Robert Redford."
Oh, God.
And I said, "Well, I'll wait because it's so gigantic." I thought, no. And so then after a couple of months, they found they couldn't make a movie of it, and it went to television. And I called and I said, "Flo, it's going to be in television. And I've got to do it. I've got to play Blackthorn." And she said, "Well, that's fine, Richard, but they want Sean Connery."
Oh, God.
And yes. And I said, I'll wait. I'll stay in line and wait.
Yes.
And Sean got, luckily, a big movie and couldn't do it. And so, and the network wanted me, and so they finally convinced James that I might be able to do it.
Wonderful. It was your destiny to play these roles, but I think I'd have had one hell of a party if I'd got the role of Debrickasar.
Oh, yes.
It would have been wonderful, wonderful. I was just listening to one of the producers. It was the production executive from Shogun. And he said, and this is a real compliment, I think, to you. He said, speaking of Richard Chamberlain, he says, "We worked in the heat of summer, the cold of winter, very primitive stages and conditions. We worked 18-hour days, and the man never stopped smiling."
Huh.
He never once complained. Had there been any other actor, I think 20 years later, we'd still be there shooting.
No kidding.
Yes.
I've never heard that before. That's wonderful.
Frank idea.
Oh, listen.
I thought that was one of the nicest things that could be said about another actor.
Me too. I'm absolutely
Beautiful.
thrilled. I've never heard it before.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, just want to bring up here. Here we have. Now, you have a film in production at the moment, don't you? It's in post-production. Echoes of the Past.
Yes, we did. We filmed it in. I'm just in one scene with Max von Sydow, at the end of the film, and it was a very, very interesting scene. And I got a free trip to Europe,
Right.
and then visited friends on Patmos, this wonderful Greek island. So it was a great experience, and working with Max was wonderful. But it's not been released yet. I'm not quite sure what its destiny is.
It's not been released, and very sadly, he passed away recently.
Yes.
Which is so sad.
Yeah. He was about 90. He was just the dearest man and a brilliant, brilliant actor.
Now, how come you're still the money shot? Still the money shot, I tell you. All these fine young things, men and ladies around you, and still Richard Chamberlain is the money shot. Now, just going back to your book for a moment, because you've brought, you created a title there, and the title was Shattered Love. And I know when I saw it, I was thinking to myself, gosh, shattered is not a word that you would associate with Richard Chamberlain at all, particularly with that lovely face. You wouldn't do that. But when you actually go through, I'll just go to page, I think it's page 169. You give an absolutely beautiful account of where you've got that from, the prism, and the concept of the shattered prism. I just think it's really lovely. And can I read it? Do you mind if I read it? Okay.
Happily.
Relying on a real deal of evidence, today's astronomers and physicists theorize that a number of billions of years ago, prior to the primal explosion of the Big Bang that created our universe, there was nothing, no time, no space, no thing visible or temporal at all. Whatever it was that exploded into all that is some sort of invisible perfection utterly beyond the understanding of science. My premise is that this invisible ground of being, this uncaused cause that preceded existence, is divinity itself, the stupendous, immaterial power of creative love. Love is perfect unity, perfect wholeness, transcending time and space, beyond the particular, utterly indivisible and impersonal. And yet the divine contains within the mystery of its perfect wholeness a dynamic creativity and stupendous curiosity. Only such perfection, such faultless eternal power could dare to shatter itself into time and space, into every conceivable potential of its nature, into everything it seemed not to be. God seems to be exploring its own being with total fascination and with no reservations whatsoever. And that's where we humans become useful. We are a manifestation of divine curiosity. We are shattered love. We splintered human beings embody a divine inquiry into its own eternal nature. God has shattered its perfection just as a prism shatters the wholeness of white light into the infinite variety of its various wavelengths and resulting colors. Thought that was really just so beautiful and profound. And you tie it up a little bit later and you say, each of us is a prism of shattered love. The 7 energy centers of our bodies refract divine energy into a surprisingly perfect rainbow of various aspects or qualities of life. So there's where your title came from.
That's where it came from.
And it is so beautiful because you go on to say, if I'm honest with myself, I see that in the right circumstances, I would, to some degree, be capable of absolutely anything any human being has ever done or will do. This includes the entire spectrum from Hitler to St. Francis, given the right conditions. It's true. We could all have been serial killers. We could all have been. The potential's there.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Each of us contains all the possibilities of power, from the most sublime to the most grotesque. All power in this world is a shard of the original holiness of love. It's beautiful. It's
good
beautiful.
stuff. I don't know where it came from, but it's good stuff.
It's good stuff. Now, you've got the benefit of hindsight now, having read this book. What were your feelings when you reread it?
Well, there were a number of things I had pretty much forgotten, which I loved being reminded of. But I suddenly thought, when I know we're going to get to this shattered love business and the divine business and all that, which was very easy 20 years ago or whenever it is I wrote the book, because life was relatively rosy. Life is exceedingly difficult now. The world is in terrible, terrible shape, I think.
Yes.
And so imagining that we're all, well, I did include all the light and dark in that definition, but we're definitely in the darker explorations now, I think.
Yes.
And it's scary. I have no idea how dark it's actually going to get.
What are you most worried about?
I worry about the planet itself, almost more than anything else. I'm sitting in Honolulu. I mean, I'm sitting in Hawaii right now, looking out at the sea. If I look right over this computer, I see the gorgeous clouds, the gorgeous sea, the gorgeous palm trees. Yes. And then I have to remind myself of what we're doing to it, what we're doing to this ocean, what we're doing to all this. And it makes me very, very, very sad.
Now, I remember years ago, you did a set of programs from Hawaii called, it was Richard Chamberlain's Hawaii, wasn't that it? And you were looking at how the ecosystems were being affected. And it was a big group.
I narrated a number of ecological movies. Yes, yes.
And do you find, is it coral reefs that you're worried about? Is it what is it?
The whole caboodle. The whole caboodle. We're sitting here, but the sea has risen a foot anyway, and just in the last couple of years.
Right.
No, everything is ailing. Everything on the planet is ailing now. It's not just the reefs.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And it's all overfished. There's hardly any big fish left in the ocean.
Yes.
It's just amazing how thoughtless we are, we humans.
Absolutely the truth. I mean, we're complaining about it here in Ireland too, where I live in Drogheda, in Drogheda. It's basically where all the kings of Ireland were buried.
Wow.
You know, your megalithic tombs and your beautiful, beautiful Newgrange tomb. It's what 2,000 years older than the pyramids. I mean, these are
Oh,
wonderful areas. They're such
God.
natural areas, but the same thing is happening.
Mm,
We're not escaping.
no.
You know, it's just awful from that point of view. Talk to me a little bit about stage. I mean, you've played Hamlet, you've played Richard II. You've gone. I almost got to see you in Austria when you were playing Higgins.
Oh, right. That was a
Ticket.
good production. That was a
That
nice
was a
production.
great production, I believe, and I couldn't get a ticket. I was working in a school over there at the time in Vienna.
Ah,
And you know, you seem to, I know you didn't major on anything like musicals, but you did venture into that for quite some time, didn't you?
yes, I did. Two. There was My Fair Lady and The Sound of Music. I also did a brief production of Christmas Carol. A Scrooge. It was called Scrooge. It was a very good musical, but of course it's seasonal. Yeah, I spent a lot of time, well over a year, in each of those shows. They were very lucrative, by the way.
I'm sure they were.
Great fun, exceedingly hard work.
Yes.
Because you do 8 shows a week, and then you travel on your day off and get into a new hotel, a new bed, new AC, new everything, and get used to all that stuff. So it's very hard work. It's a kind of monkish existence. I found I couldn't even go out. Everybody was going out after the show and having a drink and stuff like that. I had to go right to bed. I had to really take care of myself.
And pace yourself. And did you only do the European tours with certain shows, when you played Higgins and My Fair Lady, or did you do it with all of them? Were they domestic American tours, or were they?
Oh yeah, they were domestic American tours. Yeah, same cast, same everything. Oh well, no, not really. For the European, no, you're quite right. It was a different director and a different set.
You have a love of, like, my area is cabaret and concert. You have a love of that.
Yes.
And
Yes, it's fun getting up and singing and dancing. Oh my goodness.
it is. And do you ever play? Do you ever go to any of the venues yourself and join in, or would you?
Very little. Very little. Sort of getting up on stage and singing a song. No, I've done some charity work here in the past few years of getting up and singing, and it was fun. But no, it's not something I just dash on stage to do.
But you have a great talent as a pianist, and again, The Music Lovers, fantastic film.
Well, it was
bizarre film.
I had to play on film. I had to play Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto.
You did
Play it, but I had to get my fingers in the right place at the right time, and it was just like really playing it.
So you could actually play it, but you had to play to playback as well.
I played to playback, and I would get my fingers in approximately the right places at exactly the right time. But no, I wasn't making any sound.
But you at the speed of this now would have been really difficult. I mean,
it was difficult.
My gosh, it was. So what do you enjoy playing? Sorry, just speaking, being selfish here as a singer, what do you like to play?
Well, I haven't played seriously for a long time. I practice a lot, but mostly I just remember about 5 or 6 Chopin preludes and things that I can still play. And I play them a lot, but I haven't learned anything new for a long, long time.
So just thinking, would you be interested in, for example, didn't you play, like I've played Tracy Lord in High Society twice and in the Philadelphia Story. So would you be into that kind of music?
Oh, sure.
So it would be your jazz?
Not more, but yeah. I'm a little long in the tooth for it now, but yeah, I would love to do that stuff.
Well, your style, the kind of the 50s, 60s style of music, it's back.
Oh, good.
It's back.
I'm glad to hear
it. Don't rule it out. Don't rule it out. Right, the future. If we all have one, with the way things have happened.
Yes.
Are you planning to go back to LA?
The curious thing about life, I've lived 86 years, and I have never, ever, ever experienced the present experience of there not being a future. Yeah. There may be, there may not be. You might, the COVID might pass, might not. The economy might come back, it might not. The jobs might come back, they might not. It's impossible for me at the moment to make any plans at all, even to go back to LA, because I don't particularly want to get on a plane.
No.
So it's the future for me, in my experience now, is just blank. Yes. I hope each day I'll still be here in Hawaii and it'll be beautiful. Yes. But who knows? What about you?
I beg your pardon?
What about you in the future?
Well, this is the thing. I know I hit that bump in week 16, 17, where I was thinking exactly the same thing. I just couldn't see, ahead, which was very odd. And it wasn't depression or anything like that. I just thought, right, where and how can we do anything? And that's actually where I found your book very interesting, because you talk a lot about letting go of that and just being in the moment and accepting the situation that is, which was the thing I was really struggling to do, and which I could have done years ago, but had lost the ability to do. Sure. And it got me back. But the thing is, it clears your head. It clears your head, and just learning to be in the moment, learning to be, to literally be. So, I mean, I have a lot to thank you for, because it for me, I think I've got a little more clarity right now. I don't believe, I see this as similar to Spanish flu, which lasted, 3 years? Yeah. Still not the best case scenario for anyone, but when you think about how that played out, I would say it'll be the same. And I do believe that we'll get back performing again. I mean, Maureen Jennings of Murdoch Mysteries, I beg your pardon, she'll be on in the next week or so. And that show is up and running again.
Oh, good.
They're back in Canada. They're back. They're ready to start filming again. They've got all their costume fittings, everything. That is so inspirational. It will happen.
My other big worry, now you just reminded me, you know the series The Crown, the British series?
Yes.
Well, I couldn't wait for the third year. I just couldn't wait. And I don't know if they've been able to really finish it. So I'm hoping that happens.
I'm hoping that happens too, because I love that series as well.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant.
I would not be too downcast about it. I really do think we're going to find ways around this. But for the time being, it's stay put. It's stay put, but be as positive as we possibly can. And I'm sure, what else can we do?
Yep. Tell me how I can hear you sing. Can I buy a record, or how do I hear you sing?
Oh, you can. Do you want to hear me sing now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Fly. Oh no, it won't work on this. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me hear what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, will you join me?
Take my hand, something, hold my hand. No, I'm not going to sing.
In other words,
you're good.
Darling, kiss me. Ooh, fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. Yeah. Oh, in other words, darling, I love you.
Bravissimo.
That is going to sound awful.
Oh, it sounded great here.
Thank you so much. You're very kind. Well, Richard, thank you so much for being on the show. You are so good, and it has been an honor to be able to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're wonderful. You're really good at this. Yeah, really good.
I wish I was. And I wish you all the best. I'm going to ask you to stay with me for a moment while I sign out. Everybody listen, weren't we lucky today? Can you imagine this? Prayers answered and the great man himself arrived. This is Miriam from Writer's Block. Stay well, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.